The war room of the Galactic Defense Coalition fell silent as Admiral Thexara's mandibles clicked in frustration. Around the crystalline table, representatives from 12 different species shifted uncomfortably in their environmental suits. The holographic display showed another devastating defeat. The third this month. Human forces had somehow turned a certain loss into a Pyrrhic victory, buying precious time for civilian evacuations while inflicting catastrophic damage on the Dominion fleet. "Impossible," hissed General Krill, his serpentine form coiling tighter around his hover platform. "Our tactical analysis showed a 97.3% probability of total human annihilation. How do they keep doing this?" Commander Zephyros, her blue-scaled features reflecting the dim light, gestured at the data streams. "Their casualty rates are astronomical. No rational species would accept such losses. It's barbaric." At the far end of the table sat the lone human representative, Colonel Marcus Chen. He hadn't spoken since arriving 3 hours ago, content to listen as the Coalition's finest military minds dissected his species' apparent death wish. His weathered face remained impassive, gray eyes studying each speaker in turn. Admiral Thexara's 4 eyes focused on the human. "Colonel Chen, perhaps you can illuminate us. Why does Earth fight like this? Your species treats every engagement as if surrender isn't an option. You throw away lives with reckless abandon. We've seen humans continue fighting with severed limbs, pilots ramming their damaged fighters into enemy dreadnoughts, entire battalions choosing death over strategic retreat." The room's attention fixed on Chen as he slowly stood. At average, human height, he was dwarfed by most of the assembled beings, yet something in his bearing commanded respect. "You want to know why we fight like that?" Chen's voice was quiet, measured. "Let me tell you about my grandfather." General Vorth, whose cybernetic implants whirred softly, interrupted. "Colonel, we don't need human folklore." "No." Chen's tone cut through the objection like a blade. "You asked. You'll listen." The general's protest died in his throat. Chen walked to the viewing port, hands clasped behind his back. "My grandfather fought in what we call World War II, Earth's first global conflict with truly industrial-scale killing. He was captured during the Battle of the Philippines and spent 3 years in a prisoner of war camp. He turned back to face the assembled officers. The guards tried everything to break him: starvation, beatings, psychological torture. They wanted him to give up information about Allied positions, to broadcast propaganda, to abandon his fellow prisoners. You know what he did instead?" The room remained silent. He organized a resistance network inside the camp, helped other prisoners escape, shared his meager rations with the sick. When the guards tried to force him to identify which prisoners had been stealing food, he volunteered for their punishment instead. Chen's voice grew stronger. "They broke his ribs, shattered his fingers, nearly killed him twice, but he never broke." Commander Zephyros shifted uncomfortably. "That's admirable, but hardly relevant to modern warfare." Chen smiled grimly. "Isn't it? See, that's the thing you don't understand about humans. We don't fight because we're suicidal or irrational. We fight because we've learned something about ourselves that you haven't learned about your own species yet." "And what's that?" Admiral Thexara demanded. "That there are things worth more than survival." The words hung in the air like a challenge. Several officers exchanged glances, their alien features reflecting confusion and discomfort. Chen continued, his pace measured and deliberate. "Every species in this coalition has one thing in common. When faced with extinction, you negotiate. You find terms you can live with. You prioritize the survival of your people above all else. It's logical. It's rational. It's smart." He paused, letting that sink in. "But humans, we've faced extinction dozens of times. Ice ages, supervolcanic eruptions, plagues, famines, wars that should have ended our species. And every single time, we made the same choice. We decided that how we survived mattered more than whether we survived." General Krill's scales rippled with agitation. "Preposterous. Survival is the prime directive of all intelligent life." "Is it?" Chen asked quietly. "Then explain the Holocaust museums. Explain why we preserve the memory of 6 million of our people murdered for their beliefs. Explain why we honor the ones who died rather than forget the ones who lived. The room grew colder, or perhaps it just felt that way. You see humans throw away their lives and you call it wasteful. But we're not throwing them away. We're investing them. Every human who dies defending a principle, protecting the innocent, or buying time for others to escape, they're making a statement about what kind of species we choose to be. Chen walked back to his seat, but remained standing. The Dominion offers us terms every month. They'll let Earth live if we become a client state, submit to their authority, accept their version of order. They promise our people will survive. And you refuse, Admiral Thexara said, her voice barely a whisper. Every damn time, Chen's eyes blazed with quiet fire. Because we learned something in those concentration camps, in the trenches of the Somme, in the rice paddies of Vietnam, in the ruins of every city we've ever defended. We learned that a life lived on your knees isn't a life worth having. The silence stretched taut. Commander Zephyros was the first to speak, her voice shaking. But the cost, your casualties, are ours to bear, Chen said simply. Every human who dies in this war dies free. Every human who survives does so with their dignity intact. That's worth any price. General Vorth's cybernetics sparked as his emotional regulators failed. You're all insane. Maybe. Chen finally sat down, his gaze sweeping the room. But we're free, and we intend to stay that way. If that threatens your sensibilities, if it makes you uncomfortable, if it forces you to question whether survival really is worth any compromise, then maybe you need to look in the mirror and ask yourself what you're really fighting for. One by one, the alien officers began to file out of the room. Some muttered about human irrationality. Others seemed lost in thought. Admiral Thexara was the last to leave, pausing at the door. Colonel, she said without turning around. Your grandfather, did he survive the war? Chen nodded. He did. Came home, married my grandmother, raised 6 children, lived to be 93 years old. And was it worth it? The suffering, the resistance, the principle? Chen smiled, and for the first time since the meeting began, it reached his eyes. Ask my grandmother. When the war ended and they were reunited, she said she knew immediately that the man who came home was the same man who had left. Broken, scarred, haunted, but not bent. Never bent. Admiral Thexara's mandibles clicked once, softly. I see. She left without another word, and Chen was alone in the war room with its holographic displays of human defeats that somehow felt more like victories than any conquest he'd ever studied. Outside, 3 generals submitted their resignations. Before the shift ended,